What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over an electrolysis for rusty gas tanks. So right here we got a rusty gas tank. Customer let it sit for about 2 years with the old gas in there. Ended up getting some water in there, and just from letting it sit over time, got super rusty. So what we did was we threw it in the vapor blaster, ended up getting, I would say, 80% of it, and then we ended up taking just some bolts and nuts and different things, and throw them in the top here, shake it up real good, and that'll break up all that scale and extra rust that's in there. So once you do that, then you can go into an electrolysis process, which will end up cleaning almost all of, if not all, the rust that's in there. Electrolysis really has a harder time when it's like thicker buildup scale. So we're going to go in this video and kind of give you an idea of what you need to do this properly and safely. So stay tuned. All right, guys, I'm just going to walk you through on kind of some of the stuff that you need. You can kind of see, it's kind of hard, but you can see the stuff on the edge here. That's just from vapor blasting it, and we didn't want to put the corrosion and rust inhibitor in there. So we'll get all that taken care of. But as you can see down here on the very bottom, you've got that hole, and that's where your fuel, that's where it comes out. So this is what was there. That just slides in there like that. But we're going to be putting water in here. So you don't want that water to flow out. Obviously, we want it sealed. So what I did was I took a bolt that will fit right in there, and then I took one of those seals right there, put it on the end, and then just kind of threw some thread tape on there just for added security. But one of the main things that you're going to need is a rod, bolt, whatever it might be. Just something steel that you can put in the gas tank and kind of, if you want, throw it away later. We reuse this one just because we have a vapor blaster. It makes it super easy to clean right after. One of the big things is when you stick this rod through, you're going to end up putting the positive and negative cables. So positive is going to go on here, and then let me get the camera set up here. I'll show you a little better here. If you look on the side here, got a little spot right there, the ground down, and that's where my ground cable is going to go. So once we have that ground and the positive on there, you can pretty much start it, and it'll start working. We're going to walk through all the steps that you need to do here. So you got your rod. What I do is I take like a spray paint can, top. What I did was use my torch here, warmed up the end of my rod, went in the center, and just let it melt through. That way I've got a nice snug fit there, and then I just threw some nails, welded them on real quick just to hold it in place. Because your height has to be right. So take a measuring tape or whatever you have, measure from the bottom of your gas tank to the top, and then you're going to go ahead and add this distance to whatever that was, and that's going to give you your height, because you don't want the bottom of this rod to be touching the metal there, because then it's going to end up putting on electricity through that, and that's not. We're pretty much just trying to put a positive charge to the solution that we're going to be putting in there. So you got your rod, you got your cap now. Once you have that, then I like to be a little bit extra safe on it. You can kind of see this rim here. It's got that rim, so when my rod is through there, it's going to end up tipping and hitting on that side, and that's not what we want. So what we want to do is I just took some scrap piece of hose that I had here, and you're literally just going to shove it on like that. And I took measurements, so I know that where my edge is going to hit on this rubber is right about there. So then I just put some slots in it just so the water can get through and actually be able to attract there, because you want as much metal showing as possible, but I like to be extra safe about it, and I don't want to have something go wrong there. But once you have your piece on there, to stop from hitting on the side, end up going like that. And as you can see now, you can't hear it hitting the side of the metal. So once you have that, I'll take a piece of electrical tape and I'll strap this down. That way it can't move, and I'll do like 1 over, 1 over, 1 over, 1 over. That way it doesn't fall. So now that we have our rod all set up and that's ready to go, and the bolt is ready to go, now we can kind of go into our solution here. So what you're going to need is baking soda, mixing container, and then measuring cup is all I have here, so this will work. The equation for how much baking soda you want to water is roughly, I believe it's 1 gallon for 2 tablespoons of baking soda. And I mean, you don't have to be perfect about this, that's why I'm using one of these. So I'm just going to rough guess on 2 tablespoons, a little more, a little less, it's not going to hurt. You just want to make sure you have that right solution. So once you've got that, you'll dump that right into your water solution. Obviously there's no water in there right now. But once you have that water solution, you get it mixed up nice and good, throw your funnel in. And at this point, you'll already have this built in. You'll pour all your water in all the way to the top. You want it pretty much right to the top there, that way it gets all the rust, on the top, everything. So you've got your water solution in, you've got your pieces all made, your bolts in the bottom there, so the water can't drain out. You've got your tape on. What you're going to do then is take your positive cable from a charger, battery, whatever it might be, just 12 volt. Make sure it's a good battery. You're going to connect your positive cable here, and then your negative cable to some piece of metal on the tank. Doesn't necessarily have to be, on the bottom or on the side, or just wherever you can get it. And I might end up using this if it fits in there nice and clean, but we'll see. But so I'm going to get this all ready, and then I will show you guys kind of during the process here. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so now that we got everything made up for it, I went ahead and put everything together, kind of show you. So we've got our rod on the inside there, we've got our protection, all that stuff. You can see the bubbles in there, that means it's working. But right now I've got a battery cable on my positive going through my rod, and I've got it hooked up to the battery charger just to keep it nice and fresh. Then I've got my negative cable here. I know it's red, it's negative, positive, negative. So my negative cable is hooked up to the bottom there. And then we'll give this about a couple hours, 3-4 hours, it just kind of depends. So we'll see how it does and kind of go from there, and then I'll post another video. Thanks guys. Alright guys, so our electrolysis process is pretty much done. We were able to let it sit overnight. We ended up working on a couple different bikes, different things like that. So overnight, just even longer to let everything break up and kind of get out there. So I'm going to pull you guys over here. I'm going to see if I can get a good picture for you real quick. It's kind of hard to see in there, but you can see the little bubble still moving around in there. So first thing I'm going to do, obviously turn off my battery charger. I'm going to unplug it just to be safe. You know, you don't have to worry about crossing lines or making sparks you want to, you know. So I got those off. I'm actually going to take them off and add the battery. It's just going to be a little bit safer. This right here is why you always put your tools away at the end of the day. Found it. I always like to take my positive off first. That way, you know, there's no power to it anymore. Just feels safer. Okay, so now that I got those both connected, I'm gonna get this positive right off of there. Pop that off. We're gonna go ahead and get that negative off. Get this fun tape off here. Put a rag up top here just to, because as it's going through the process, it is going to bubble just from the electrolytes and everything getting charged. So I like to come back every once in a while, check on it, make sure it's all the way full, just kind of like a battery. You want to keep them all the way full. That way they can have the right amount of solution inside. So I fill this one up every once in a while, but it wasn't too bad. We're going to pull this guy off. As you can see, kind of right there. Very rusty. So all that rust was inside the fuel tank there. We were able to pull it out. Nasty water right there. Alright guys, so we got it all cleaned out. There's a bunch of debris that came out of it. So that's after I dumped the cloudy water, or like the rusty, nasty water. I used a hose and sprayed in there just to get the rest of that thicker, big stuff in there out. And then once I did that, made sure it was all cleaned out, sprayed a little brake clean in there to make sure it was all dry. So you want to make sure that this thing is fully dry before you do anything with it. Otherwise it's just going to rust immediately. So you want to make sure that thing is super dry on the inside. And then if you've got, like on the outside here, and then on this centerpiece, I threw a little corrosion rust inhibitor. It's not going to hurt anything. It'll just kind of save it until it gets fuel in it and keep it clean and dry. So that's it for an electrolysis. Quick treatment, super easy, anybody can do it. Thanks again guys. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button.